Welcome to the Romance and Adventure Podcast.
This is our weekly podcast exploring true romance and meaningful adventure and what it means to live a good and beautiful life with those you love. I'm Morgan Day Cecil.
Hello, I love you, and I'm Ron Cecil.
Hello, I love you too.
This is episode 1. We are coming to you live from a farmhouse in Andalucia, Spain. Actually, it's only live on the recording, so not live.
We're live. We're alive.
I'm alive.
I feel very alive here. It's amazing.
This week, we are going to talk about what we mean when we say romance and adventure. Both are words that are preloaded with controversy and triggers. It's not all candlelit dinners and horseback riding, although those are nice things.
Those are nice.
I'd love to do that right now.
We have some candles lit.
Yeah. We use the hero's journey this week to map our process of what it means to live a full life to the full of true romance and meaningful adventure. And we'll also just take a tiny bit amount of time to catch you up on our 3-month-long trip in Europe.
Awesome.
Yep. So first, let's talk about what we don't mean when we say romance and adventure.
Tell us, Ronnie, what don't we mean?
Well, I think let me first start with we don't mean romantic. Right? Although we don't necessarily exclude it.
I think that's the biggest misconception, actually. People thinking that only those who are in a romantic relationship are invited to the party.
Yeah. In fact, relationships of that kind are not required at all.
No.
Yeah.
I think romance and adventure begins way before you walk down an aisle, way before a ring is on your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely. And we certainly don't mean, but we're not necessarily excluding the romantic idea of pop culture, the pop culture idea of romantic love. Especially, I think, and I think this is what everyone is trying to get away from that right now, is just the love at first sight, you know,
Pretty shallow.
Yeah, shallow. You get married, happily ever after.
Happily ever after, I'll take it.
We all want it.
We all want it. But there's a lot that goes into it, and it's a journey, and to live those moments that are kind of those pinnacle moments of romance, the horseback riding on the beach, the candlelit dinners on your anniversary. There's a lot other real life that goes into that.
Yeah,
and
some nitty-gritty stuff. Blowouts with diapers. Blowouts by yourself. Let's move on. Okay.
Let's move on.
Romantic.
So we don't mean romantic as in a love affair, a specific love affair.
Yeah.
And, you know, like you said, not only just pop culture references to boxes of chocolates and, you know, date night ideas.
Yeah.
But we will be giving you some of those, so stay tuned.
Yeah, and we don't necessarily mean, or we definitely don't mean the idea of romanticism. We're not trying to bring back romanticism.
What is that, Ronnie?
Well,
you
it's,
Googled
you know,
it. You
I did.
Tell us all about it. What's romanticism?
You know, it's the 18th and 19th century idea of especially an emotional or self-centered or kind of singularly centered idea, capturing especially memory. So nostalgia, and really there was a lot of nationalism wrapped up in it. So the French were really ahead of all that.
Kind of something that takes you out of real life, an authentic experience of like the full spectrum of what it means to you know, be human, and just kind of concentrating on the fluff.
Well, not the fluff, but like the depths of the emotions.
Okay.
And just for the emotion's sake, it was like an emotional journey, and
you get addicted to that.
Oh yeah, I mean I love that stuff in certain ways.
I totally was addicted to romanticism in my teens and 20s.
Yeah, I mean I read Les Miserables, Victor Hugo's romantic writer, and that's an amazing book. So we're not excluding that all the way, but we're not saying like.
Yeah, that's not the heart of what we mean when we say romance and adventure.
And by adventure, do we mean rock climbing, motorcycles, horseback riding? All things I love doing.
Yeah,
right?
You love but no, we don't mean the adrenaline seeking.
We're probably more in line with the. I mean, we definitely are more in line with two things, both quotes. One quote is by Yvon Chouinard. What's that one?
It's good. We really needed to adopt it on the motorhome trip we just finished. Adventure begins the moment everything goes wrong.
That's right. And that reminds me of another quote by a guy I really like named Mike Tyson, former heavyweight champion of the world. Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yes.
And I think those things are exactly what we mean when we mean adventure. I've always said that the reason we love Indiana Jones is that there's a slight possibility he can get squished by the rolling ball.
Right.
Right?
I mean, that's, yeah,
and
there's a wildness to it and there's a danger to it, but what we're really speaking about is an inward experience of adventure where you're confronting something in your soul. Like, it's not just the frontiers out there and climbing the mountains in the world, though, go for it, like, if that's what lights you up. But we're really talking about the uncharted territory within that's...
Absolutely.
You know, calling to you.
Yeah, so what do we mean when we say romance and adventure?
I love this question. It's something I've been, in some form or another, mulling over for, I don't know, in some ways my whole life. I feel like it's always, those two words have captivated me, compelled me, sometimes repelled me. Like, just, it can be a very, you come off of a breakup.
Yeah.
And the last thing you want to hear about is romance and your heart just breaking.
Yeah.
It's one of, both of those words are difficult to define, I think, because they hold so much. And as soon as you begin to define it, it's like God or love. It's like but it's more expansive than that. So, I was taking notes, just kind of organizing my thoughts around this podcast topic, and I think romance and adventure can be anything that compels us and something that, can aid us in our healing process to become more whole. But we also need to look at the ways that when done wrong, it can hurt us and it can confuse us. What is romance? What is adventure? It's both. I think all of us have experienced romance and adventure both as a pleasure and as a cause of pain. When we get it wrong, when we, I don't know, there's many ways to get romance and adventure wrong. But when we do, it hurts us and it hurts others. But when we get it right, I really believe it has the power to heal us, heal ourselves, and to heal others. So it's a powerful lens, and that's kind of how I want to talk about it, as a paradigm, and a paradigm being something, a way you see the world, a lens like through which you kind of interpret your experiences and can help you frame your experiences, even to help you ask better questions and move you along in the journey. A few other things. It's really helped me live in harmony with kind of the opposing tensions within, like the drive to belong and both be an individual, or the drive for security and excitement, and the tension between familiarity and novelty. I think on one side we have the romance, which is like the sense of belonging and the sense of security and love, and then the adventure, like the sense of wildness and excitement and kind of setting out your own way. So it's holding these two things together. It's a way to integrate all sides of our humanity and that spark within us that's made in the image of God. I would say that the kingdom of God is full of romance and adventure. I think there is a huge spiritual component to true romance and meaningful adventure, all of which we kind of see told through the stories in the Bible. I think it means to love well and to be courageous. At its heart, this is romance. It's just an understanding and hopefully an experience that we are loved. And adventure is an understanding and a knowing that we're made for brave things. That there is a strength inside us. There is a strength inside us that we can't even imagine. And it's the experience of being brave when we encounter difficulty.
Yeah. I think, our old working definition of romance and adventure was...
It still works.
Yeah, it absolutely. Anything you do in the name of love, and anything you do for the sake of love.
Yeah.
And risk being the underlying factor and for the sake of love.
Yeah. I think that anything that requires you to be brave for the sake of love, that's adventure.
Yeah.
And anything beautiful that you do in the name of love, I think that counts as romance. I think of it as, I love this idea of creative, redemptive living. Like, all of us are given, we're born into a set of circumstances, and we're given a set of cards to play, and life happens to us, and we're wounded by it, and we're shaped by it. So living a life of romance and adventure is a way of creative, redemptive living. I think it requires a lot of creativity to be brave, and to keep a belief in love when you've been hurt by it, and a belief in beauty and goodness when you've been hurt, and when things aren't going your way. But then the redemptive part is that beyond you, there is this grace, there is this power that that meets you along the journey, and transforms and changes you and saves you from your old ways, saves you from your destructive ways of being in the past, and moves you forward in the story.
So we all want to know that we're loved, and we all want to know
There's our mic.
that we're brave. I'll hold that.
Hold on for a second.
I'll say that again. We all want to know that we're loved, and we all want to know that we are brave.
Yeah.
But none of us really want to experience that pain that builds our character and teaches these things.
Right. And that's why we love movies and books and songs and photographs and art, and because it kind of gives us the that cathartic experience without having to go through all the
Someone
pain
does the work
ourself.
for us.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Also,
it's wrapped up neatly in a little less than 2 hours most of the time.
Well, let's talk about that the power of story in that a little bit. I was reading a book before our vacation called A Hero with 1,000 Faces by Joseph Campbell. He's the guy who came up with this idea of the monomyth, or what's called the hero's journey. And this is the pattern by which all great tales, all great myths, including the modern ones like Star Wars and Harry Potter, are based off of. And you find it all throughout the Bible. And when I first encountered this, I was really kind of nervous because I thought, oh no, someone's mythologizing the Bible. And I was like, what do I care? If it's a myth worth believing for me. And here's what it is. Here's the hero's journey. And this is what makes movies and all that stuff so inspiring, is that it's a common template or a broad category of a story that involves a hero, and that's you, the listener, or Harry Potter, who goes on an adventure, and in a decisive crisis, so that means something where like you have to make a decision, in a decisive crisis, wins a victory, and then comes home changed or transformed.
Yeah.
Right? So we see this with Luke. He's just a dude living on some planet out in the middle of nowhere. He heeds the call, he answers the call, and comes back a Jedi Knight. We see Harry Potter leave the Muggle world and come back this wizard, right? Well, I don't know if he's technically a wizard, but he comes back, with his magic.
He has powers.
Absolutely.
He's learning to wield his powers.
That's right. And in both cases, all right, both of those, they were right on the verge of saying no or had something stopping them, right?
Yeah.
Fear, or actual, actual things coming in front of them.
Right. Resistance of all kinds.
Resistance. And in both cases, and in the hero's journey in the monomyth, help comes when we least expect it. And I love the way Joseph Campbell describes it. He actually calls it supernatural aid.
Yeah, this is the divine entering in.
I think that one of my favorite stories for us with supernatural aid was when we were at the very beginning of really beginning to phrase this idea of romance and adventure in our life. And I won't get too far off track here, Morgan, but when we were really starting to...
I love your tangents and your stories.
This is a good
I'm excited to see what you're going to share.
Well, this one in particular was like we were all alone in Kentucky, and we were really searching. And we were looking. We had each other, which was nice, but we knew that there was something more. And we were saying yes to a lot of things. And one of those things was one of our friends owned a Vespa dealership. And they lent us some Vespas, and we went on a big Vespa ride with a group. And on that group, there was this fellow there who was like, I don't know. The way I like to remember him is that he is like a gay go-go dancer. And he's just this big...
We love you, Chris.
Yeah. And meeting that guy forever changed our lives, because he started to tell us about a community he was a part of that forever changed his life. And that community was a group of people who loved him and just wanted him to know that he was loved. And that was it. And I was like, what is that? And he invited us. He's like, come check it out. And that was our supernatural aid in a moment. And the hero's journey is not just your journey of your lifetime, although it kind of is, but it can be a season, it can be a moment, it could be a day, you know, a decisive moment during a day when just, I know we've been on vacation, and like for me it's like, how do I love my kids right now?
You wake up and the hero's journey begins again. But I think for every season of life, when we enter into a new identity of some sorts, the hero journey begins. You know?
Oh, absolutely.
We get
every
many
season,
chances to kind of say yes to a new hero's journey, including the one that's overarching journey of our life.
Yeah, absolutely. So romance and adventure is the paradigm for which we have basically been navigating our hero's journey.
Yeah, it's a choice, and to believe that we are loved, that no matter what, no matter how we feel day to day, that the deepest truth is that we're loved. And I love this G.K. Chesterton quote about romance, and he says, romance is the deepest thing in life. It's deeper even than reality. And I love that, and I choose to believe that because we all know real life. We've all experienced the ups and downs of any given day, and it's requires a lot of courage sometimes to believe you're loved when things are going wrong, right and left, and nothing's working out. But that's the choice we're making to live, and it really has. You know, we've experienced it all, but it really does lead us into more beauty and goodness.
Yeah, and for the hero, I think that knowing that they're loved, I think that's a way we could describe it, and the way Joseph Campbell might describe it is knowing that help is always there.
Yeah.
Like no matter what, in the deepest, darkest, scariest times, and whatever the decisive moment is, help is on its way.
And you never know, like when God or a friend or any divine aid is going to meet you, because it's something new every time. Like we are met in new ways every time, and so.
I feel like we could do a podcast forever just on many times supernatural aid has shown up in our life.
But it's like we're learning trust.
Absolutely.
And all that. And
absolutely.
Then for adventure, at the heart of it, it's saying yes to brave things that you know you're made to do.
Yeah.
It's not denying fear. It's not necessarily conquering it forever. It's just saying yes despite it all and moving forward in your life bravely, courageously. Because really, this is where it's at. This is living.
It is, and for the hero, and this is for you, the listener. This is for you. This is the challenge to heed your call, to step into the things that you know you're meant to do, to say the things that you're meant to say, to live the way that you're meant to live.
To tell your story.
Absolutely, that's the biggest one. Absolutely.
So let's kind of wrap it up with some questions for reflection.
So if we start with this idea that we are all invited into a hero's journey, we're all being invited to discover what true romance and meaningful adventure means to us. So where are you at along this journey, and have you said yes?
This is important, guys. So let's pause here for a second. Just where are you at in this journey? You are the hero of your story, and you know. There's stuff at risk if you don't say yes. There's people, there's little ones, there's your spouse, there's your friends that, you know, you becoming your best self, you heeding the call, is you becoming of greater service to the world.
Absolutely.
I believe that. I really, the core of my being, saying yes to courageous things, you know, helps us become who we're made to be, and to love. Love well, love and serve well. So think about that. What is at risk if you don't say yes?
Yeah. I think this is also a giant question, and one I really want you to think about. I really want you to spend some time with. In fact, if this is the only question you walk away with, this is the one worth pondering and worth wrestling with. And that is, what's at risk if you don't heed your call?
Yeah, that's what we're just saying. It's like, it really is important to rest here, because I think, in a way, we think we don't matter. I think if there's a common lie that I tend to hear is that what I do doesn't matter, and why make the effort, and you know, with all the noise there is out there in the world, and so many people clamoring for attention of one kind or another, what does it matter for me to create my thing, or for me to do my thing? does it help anybody? And I think it's easy to kind of put off doing your thing because you kind of slide into the lie that what you do doesn't matter, and it does matter. So there is a risk for not heeding your call.
Absolutely.
We miss out on it.
Yeah.
So do your kids, your spouse, and your friends.
Couple other questions. If you're feeling unsure of yourself or the divine power in your life that will guide you, know that this is how the hero's journey always begins, and is good news. And
because it always works out. This is really good news. That I mean, you never see a hero not make it to the place of transformation or change. And I'm not saying success or failure, because we encounter lots of failure along the way, but that is not what defines us. I think that failures are so important, and I think every good hero fails at some point. And it's a character builder. It teaches us something we need to know, and it's all about the transformation that happens within. It just so you saying yes is all it takes, is you being courageous and saying yes, and you will be met. Like, I love this quote, and I've thought about it a lot before we began this journey here in Europe for our 3-month quote sabbatical, which is definitely more of an adventure than a sabbatical. But it was this quote that someone shared with me, and I'm going to botch it, but this is just what I remember of it, is that when you get to the edge and you jump, like, faith is knowing either you'll be given wings to fly or the ground will appear beneath your feet. And that's, it takes a lot of courage to jump, but the hero knows that he'll be given wings or the ground will appear beneath his feet.
That's right.
So if you have been filled with self-doubt or shame about your past, or worry about the future, if you felt unclear or maybe just lackluster in the direction or path in your life, maybe today is the day. Today is the day that you re-engage in your hero's journey, and maybe it's the day that it really begins.
Yeah, and for you, that could mean just making a phone call. It could be saying yes to the question someone asks you or to the invitation someone's given you. It could be really little. It could be opening your arms to someone who really needs some love at this moment, which might be your kid or might just be somebody else.
Yeah.
Only you know that. So take this podcast as your call and say yes now to discovering what that is. Living and sharing a full life of romance and adventure with those you love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We want this for you guys. We want a community of people who are living, exploring, experiencing, sharing, figuring out, learning about, being curious, like just all things romance and adventure. Like this is our thing, and we're going to be doing it, and we don't want to be doing it alone. It's so much more meaningful to do it in community, and we've learned that in our local community in Portland, just what it looks like to live this out with people. But I think we can definitely create a community online and around the world of people who say yes to this journey of, yes, I believe that no matter what, I am loved and I am made to do brave things, and let's see where that takes us.
That's right. I think we're wrapping this up just in time. The rain's coming.
Yeah,
we're outside. Yeah. So if you have found this episode helpful, please share this link to the podcast with a friend. And while you're at it, please hit subscribe. And if you'd like to hear more about romance and adventure and ways of living better, please go to our website and sign up for our mailing list, and we'll give you a free gift just for doing so.
Ooh, yes. And we forgot to tell you that next week, we're going to tell you our practices. We're going to tell you what works for us on how to really work out romance and adventure on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, year-to-year basis. And so come back next week to hear about the 12 practices of romance and adventure that also create the conditions for deeper connection of all kinds and more confidence within.
Also, to make sure to check out our website for resources from this episode. So we'll have a link to Joseph Campbell's book on Amazon, and then the TED Radio Hour about the hero's journey, which is a great,
really good,
really worth listening.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in.
Grace and peace, you guys.
Grace and peace.
That was it.